The sky above Roswell, New Mexico, was its usual expanse of clear, unending blue, a perfect canvas that hadn't changed much since 1947, when the first weather balloon crashed and stirred the imaginations of conspiracy theorists everywhere. That was until today, when a massive slate-gray spaceship broke through the clouds, its arrival as silent as the desert was still. Commander John Mac Mackenzie, a grizzled veteran of the Earth Defense Force, EDF, watched the alien craft from the base of operations hastily set up on the outskirts of town. Beside him, Dr. Lena Hart, the leading xenolinguist and biologist in the field, adjusted her glasses, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. "They're not even trying to hide," Mac observed, his voice gruff, hands clenched behind his back. "Perhaps they don't think they need to," Lena replied, her fingers tapping on her digital notepad where she recorded every observable detail for analysis. The alien craft, a behemoth of unknown alloys, hovered ominously above the city. Its presence was a silent ultimatum, a sword of Damocles hanging by a thread of extraterrestrial origin. Within hours, the first communications began, a series of low, guttural vibrations that were felt rather than heard. Lena worked tirelessly, her algorithms slicing through the cacophony of sounds to extract meaning. "It's a message," she eventually declared, looking up from her screen. "They're asking for a negotiation?" Max scoffed. "Negotiation implies they want to offer us something in return. What do we have that they could possibly want?" Before Lena could speculate, the ship acted. With a flash of light so intense it turned night into day, a beam shot from the underside of the ship, enveloping a section of the city. When the light dissipated, a chunk of Roswell was simply gone. Panic ensued as reports came in. Approximately 2 square miles of the city, including the old Roswell Museum, had been transported somewhere, presumably aboard the alien vessel. Thousands of lives vanished in an instant. The world reacted as it always did, first with disbelief, then with outrage. The United Nations convened an emergency session, and the message from humanity was clear and unanimous. There were no negotiations with terrorists, terrestrial or otherwise. Mac and Lena were summoned aboard the command ship orbiting Earth, the ESS Sovereignty. Here, the strategy was simple and brutal. Humanity would not negotiate. It would retaliate. "We need to understand their language, their culture. If we're to engage them, knowing their motives could give us an edge," Lena argued as they prepared for the counterstrike. Mac was less optimistic. "We might not have time for understanding. Prepare your data, Doctor. But prepare for war, too." The ESS Sovereignty, armed with the latest in human ingenuity and the will of a united planet, set its sights on the alien intruder. The message to the cosmos was about to be sent in the clearest language Earth knew: military might. As they approached the target, the ship's AI, Vox, synthesized Lena's findings into a warning broadcast in the alien's own language, a final attempt to avert conflict. "Leave our planet and return our people or face annihilation," Vox transmitted in a loop. The alien response was not verbal but immediate. Another beam shot down to Earth, this time striking a military base in Europe, erasing it from existence. It was clear then, the aliens had misunderstood the concept of human negotiations. For when pushed into a corner, humans didn't just push back. They obliterated the threat. Mac looked at the data screens, the red targets locked on the alien ship. "Fire," he ordered. On board the ESS Sovereignty, the atmosphere was charged with a grim determination. The crew, a collection of the best minds and bravest souls from across the Earth, prepared for a confrontation that seemed both inevitable and suicidal. The alien ship, an enigmatic monolith of technological superiority, hung in orbit like a dark omen. In the strategy room, Lena worked feverishly, her screens alive with scrolling data and translations. Her recent breakthroughs in deciphering the alien communications painted a bleak picture. These visitors did not understand the concept of mutual benefit. Their culture was predicated on dominance and acquisition. "Commander, I think I've cracked another segment of their syntax," Lena called out to Mac, who was poring over tactical maps and potential strike plans. "They see other species as resources, not as equals. Their negotiations are merely assessments to gauge resistance and value." Mac nodded, processing this new information. "So they're sizing us up, Deciding if we're worth the trouble? Exactly. And their initial strikes? Those were likely just probes, tests of our capabilities, Lena replied, her voice laced with worry. As they deliberated, the alien craft began to move, its massive form shifting with a grace that belied its size. It was positioning itself over Asia, perhaps signaling its next target. This maneuver did not go unnoticed, and within minutes, the global defense networks were alight with alerts. Prepare all batteries. Target their propulsion systems. We need to keep them from moving at will, Mac ordered, his voice echoing through the command center. The Sovereignty's weapon systems, powered by the combined nuclear arsenals of Earth, were a testament to human ingenuity and desperation. As the targeting systems locked on, the crew held their breath. The decision to strike was seconds away, pending final confirmation from the ground. Meanwhile, Lena's communication panel buzzed. A new message was incoming, complex and layered with nuances that her software struggled to parse. Wait! They're sending something different this time. It's more detailed, like an ultimatum. Can you translate it in time? Mac asked, his hand hovering over the launch button. I'll try, Lena said, her fingers a blur. They're saying... But before she could finish, an aide burst into the room. Commander, we've got a situation. The aliens have just released a cloud of something into the atmosphere above Beijing. It's spreading fast. Mac cursed under his breath. Biological or chemical? We don't know yet, sir. Satellite imagery is inconclusive. With a heavy heart, Mac faced a terrible decision. Risking a biological attack on millions, possibly billions, could not be tolerated. Lena, get me that translation now. Seconds felt like hours as Lena pieced together the message. It's a final warning. They're claiming Earth for annexation. They say resistance will result in eradication. Eradication? They really don't get us at all, do they? Mac mused bitterly. Prepare to fire all weapons. If it's war they want, we'll give them one they can't ignore. The command was given, and the ship shuddered as salvos of intercontinental plasma missiles streaked across space towards the alien vessel. The Earth's first collective offensive in space lit up the void with a fierce, silent declaration. Humanity would neither yield nor succumb quietly. As the missiles approached their target, all eyes were on the screens, watching the future of humanity unfold in a flurry of calculated destruction and desperate hope. The impact of the missiles against the alien hull was less satisfying than anticipated. The explosions, visible as brief flashes of incandescent fury against the cold backdrop of space, seemed to do little more than mar the surface of the ship. The alien vessel's armor, shimmering with an eerie metallic glow, absorbed the blasts with chilling efficiency. On the ESS Sovereignty, the mood turned somber. The screens displayed the aftermath. Minimal damage to the enemy, with no signs of critical system failures. It's like throwing pebbles at a fortress, Mac muttered, his frustration evident. Lena, meanwhile, was deep in analysis. The alien messages, now coming through in faster sequences, indicated a shift in their tactics. They're not just retaliating, she noted, eyes narrowed in concentration. They're communicating amongst themselves, possibly recalibrating their approach based on our resistance. The alien ship began to emit a series of low-frequency pulses that resonated through the void, vibrations that Lena suspected were part of a larger data-gathering technique. They're scanning us, learning from our attack patterns, she hypothesized. Mac convened an urgent meeting with his tactical advisors and the scientific team. If we can't punch through their armor with brute force, we need another angle. Ideas? Dr. Emil Hassan, a physicist specializing in electromagnetic weapons, stepped forward. We might consider using an EMP. If we can't destroy them, maybe we can disable them. Give us time to evacuate high-risk areas on the ground, Lena added. And if we can tap into those pulses they're emitting, there might be a way to send a disruptive feedback loop. It's risky, but it could fry their scanning systems, blind them temporarily. Mac nodded, considering the options. Prepare the EMP. Hassan, work with Lena on the feedback loop. I want options on the table within the hour. As the team dispersed to their respective tasks, The alien ship moved again, this time positioning itself over the Atlantic Ocean, its intentions unclear. The situation on the ground grew more dire as reports came in of smaller alien probes landing across the globe, from the steppes of Russia to the deserts of Arizona. These probes, unlike the larger ship, were aggressive, releasing swarms of drone-like entities that attacked anything that moved. Humanity's response was swift, global defense forces engaging with a mix of conventional weaponry and hastily developed countermeasures. Back on the Sovereignty, Lena made a breakthrough. I've managed to isolate a pattern in their pulse signals. With a targeted EMP tuned to this frequency, we might just scramble their systems long enough to... The ship lurched suddenly, alarms blaring. "They're firing on us!" someone shouted. A direct hit from the alien vessel had rocked the Sovereignty, causing critical damage to several decks. "We don't have much time," Mac barked, steadying himself against a console. "Hassan, is the EMP ready?" "Almost, sir," Hassan replied, his voice tense. "Just a few more adjustments." As the crew raced against time, the alien pulses intensified, a sign that perhaps they were aware of the impending counterstrike. With Earth's fate hanging in the balance, the Sovereignty's final gambit was set in motion. The EMP device, charged with all the power the ship could muster, was launched towards the alien behemoth. As the EMP neared, the anticipation was palpable. This was humanity's best chance, a desperate strike not just for survival, but for a future where Earth remained free and unclaimed by alien conquerors. The seconds ticked down, each one a heartbeat in the life of a world fighting for its very existence. The EMP detonated in a silent bloom of electric fury, a stark white light against the blackness of space. Aboard the ESS Sovereignty, the crew watched the monitors anxiously, hoping for signs of success. The alien ship, momentarily enveloped in the ghostly aura of the EMP blast, drifted, its menacing pulses ceasing. "Direct hit," confirmed one of the tactical officers, relief washing over his face for the first time since the conflict began. The alien vessel appeared dormant, a giant beast stunned into stillness. Mac allowed himself a moment of cautious optimism. "Monitor their systems. I want to know the moment they come back online." Lena, her eyes never leaving the data streams on her screen, began to coordinate with Hassan to deploy the feedback loop they had prepared. "This is our window. We might not get another," she said, her voice steady but urgent. With precision, the Sovereignty system sent a high-frequency signal back along the path the alien pulses had originated. The feedback loop, a complex cascade of disruptive frequencies, was designed to infiltrate and confuse the alien scanning mechanisms. On Earth, the impact of the EMP was immediate and dramatic. The smaller alien probes, which had been relentless in their assaults, faltered, their movements becoming erratic. Global defense forces took advantage of the confusion, recapturing territories and downing drones. Meanwhile, in orbit, the alien ship remained silent, but the tension aboard the Sovereignty remained high. Every officer and crew member understood that the current peace was fragile, possibly fleeting. Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A new message was being received, not in the aliens' previously indecipherable syntax, but in a clear, although heavily accented English. "Earth vessel, your actions necessitate reassessment. Cease hostilities for parley." Mac exchanged a look with Lena. "They're learning, adapting to communicate. Maybe now we can get some real answers." Negotiations commenced via a secure transmission link. The alien envoy, a visually unsettling creature with iridescent skin and multifaceted eyes, appeared on the screen. "We are the Enzoth. You possess resilience and cunning. It is deemed profitable to parley." Lena, serving as both translator and diplomat, tread carefully. "You attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves. What do you want with Earth?" "The sphere possesses rare isotopes crucial to N'Zoth continuance," the envoy explained. "Your resistance has altered cost-benefit parameters. We offer technology exchange. Cease resistance and gain advancement." Mac weighed the offer. The chance to end hostilities without further bloodshed was tempting, but the risk of dependency on alien technology was too great. "And if we refuse?" "Then eradication protocols resume. Decision not personal, survival imperative, the envoy replied coldly. The conversation left a heavy weight in the room. Mac turned to his advisors. We need a third option. They see everything as a transaction. How do we change the terms of the deal? Hassan chimed in. Their technology is advanced, but they've shown vulnerability. Perhaps we can offer a false concession, buy time to develop a more permanent solution. Lena suggested another tactic. What if we could make it too costly for them to continue? Increase their expenditure until it outweighs their gain? Plans began to form, not just for a battle of weapons, but for a war of attrition and deception. The sovereignty, once a beacon of military might, was now also a bastion of strategic resistance. As the alien ship gradually reactivated, the moment of silence passed, replaced by a renewed sense of urgency. Each decision, each action was a move in a high-stakes game of cosmic chess, where Earth was the board and humanity the prize. As the ESS Sovereignty hovered in orbit, its crew members settled into the grim rhythm of war. The N'Zoth had paused their attacks, a silent acknowledgement of the ongoing negotiations, but the threat loomed ever-present, a dark shadow cast across Earth's nations. In the strategy room, Mac and his team laid out their multifaceted approach. We keep them talking while we build our defenses and develop something that can hit them harder, he stated, mapping out their immediate actions. Hassan, progress on the energy lance? Dr. Hassan adjusted his glasses, his face illuminated by the glow of his holographic display. We're integrating alien energy patterns isolated from the EMP aftermath into our weapons systems. The theory is sound, but practical application is proving complex. We need more time. Time is what will get them to give us, Lena added, her voice firm. She turned to the communication console where the N'Zoth envoy awaited their next interaction. We'll make them believe cooperation is their best option. During the negotiations, Lena employed a mixture of diplomacy and deception. You require isotopes, she began, her tone carefully neutral. Earth can provide these, but only under conditions that ensure our mutual survival and benefit. The N'Zoth envoy, unblinking, analyzed her proposal. Specify conditions. We propose an exchange over time, technology for isotopes. Each transaction contingent on the continuation of peace and cooperation, Lena detailed, knowing well they were offering bait to buy time. The envoy paused, its alien features impassive yet imposing. After a moment it responded, Agreed, but first demonstration, show faith. Mac and Lena exchanged a glance, aware they were treading dangerous waters. We'll prepare a demonstration of good faith, she replied cautiously. As the negotiations continued, the Sovereignty's scientists worked feverishly. The weapon, dubbed the Energy Lance, was nearing completion. It utilized a core of alien-derived energy, potent enough, they hoped, to penetrate the N'Zoth's defenses. Meanwhile, on Earth, the fallout from the initial alien attacks had galvanized global efforts. New alliances formed, pooling resources and technology in a way humanity had never seen. The common threat had united the planet in a collective bid for survival. In space, the N'Zoth ship maintained a watchful orbit, its massive form a constant reminder of the potential peril. The crew of the Sovereignty monitored it closely, tracking every movement, every signal. They're wary but waiting, observed the tactical officer, his eyes locked on the screen. As the deadline for the demonstration approached, tension aboard the ship spiked. The energy lance was operational but untested under actual combat conditions. It's now or never, Mac declared, authorizing the test on a remote asteroid field. The demonstration was a spectacular display of power. The energy lance, charged and fired from the Sovereignty, struck with precision and devastating impact, disintegrating the largest asteroid into dust with a single shot. The N'Zoth envoy, observing remotely, transmitted its response. Impressive. We proceed. But Mac knew this was only a reprieve. As the crew celebrated their minor victory, he pondered the future. Keep pushing the boundaries. Improve the lance. This isn't over. The war had evolved from a desperate struggle for survival into a complex game of diplomacy and military strategy. Earth's fate remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. The battle for humanity's independence had forged a new era of unity and innovation, the repercussions of which would echo through the ages. The tension aboard the ESS Sovereignty had transformed from desperation to a guarded form of hope. Humanity's show of strength with the energy lance had shifted the dynamics of their interaction with the Enzoth, but both Mac and Lena knew this equilibrium was delicate, sustained by the threat of mutual destruction rather than genuine trust. As part of the agreement, the Enzoth began transmitting schematics for advanced technologies, starting with agricultural enhancements and medical advancements, a strategic choice by Lena to steer the aliens away from military applications. In return, Earth provided the promised isotopes, sourced from controlled mines under strict supervision, ensuring that the quantities were too small to be used as leverage against them. Mac reviewed the security measures around the isotope shipments. "Every gram accounted for," he reassured Lena, who was preparing for another communication session with the Enzoth envoy. "We're not just mining resources, we're mining time." Lena nodded, her focus on maintaining the facade of cooperation. During her transmissions with the envoy, she was careful to express gratitude and a willingness to continue their partnership, all the while gathering intelligence on their motivations and any potential weaknesses. The Enzoth, for their part, seemed content with the arrangement, their communications becoming slightly less rigid, slightly more open, a sign that perhaps they were beginning to view humanity as something other than mere resources. "You adapt, you survive, you learn. This is the Enzoth way, now shared," the envoy expressed in one of their sessions. Meanwhile, the global response on Earth had stabilized. The introduction of alien agricultural technologies had sparked a green revolution, unprecedented in scope and efficiency, helping to ease the tensions and hardships that had plagued the planet since the arrival of the Enzoth. Medical technologies had begun to make significant impacts as well, combating diseases that were once thought incurable. However, Mac was all too aware that peace was a fragile construct. In a series of secret meetings with global leaders, he laid out the next phase of Earth's defense plan. "The N'Zoth respect strength," he explained. "We must continue to advance our capabilities, maintain our defenses, and prepare for any future betrayals." The strategy involved the covert development of a secondary weapon system, codenamed Harbinger, designed to exploit the specific vulnerabilities in Enzoth technology that Lena had discovered through her linguistic and technical analysis. "They brought us into the galactic fold through force. We must ensure our place through ingenuity and readiness," Mac declared. As months turned into a year, the delicate balance of power remained. Earth's newfound unity and technological advancement continued to grow, fostering a renaissance of science and philosophy influenced by the existential threat they had faced. The people of Earth were no longer just inhabitants of a planet. They had become defenders of a world united by a common cause. In the command center of the Sovereignty, Mac and Lena watched as another shipment of isotopes prepared for transfer. Lena turned to Mac, a slight smile playing on her lips despite the weight of their responsibilities. "We've come a long way from fearing annihilation to standing on the edge of a new beginning." Mac nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "Let's ensure it's a beginning on our terms." As the Enzoth ship loomed silently in the distance, its hull reflecting the light of Earth's sun, the members of the Sovereignty knew the peace they enjoyed was but a moment in a larger saga, but it was a moment they had fought for, earned through courage and cunning, and they would fight just as hard to keep it. In the silent void of space, Earth had not just survived. It had proven its resilience and its capacity to rise from the ashes of confrontation to forge a path toward a future defined by its own terms. And for now, that was enough to keep the darkness at bay.